Let's begin. Today's daf is Yud Ches. We are picking up on Yud Zayin Amud Beis 17b, and we are picking up. I will tell you. Tani Rabbi Chia. It's 2, 4, 6, 8 lines up from the bottom. So again, just to first of all, I'll share this morning is dedicated by our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Cheshvan, Adam Yudit Ben Zev, Le'ilu Nishmas, Adam's grandfather Moshe David Ben Shalom, and in honor of Adam's grandmother Helen Nachman, his parents Eli and Judy Ben Nachman, for serving as incredible role models. Eli and Judy Ben Zev, for serving as incredible role models. May Kadosh Baruch Hu grant them arichos yamim v'shanim. We'll say with that, let's begin. So just to reorient ourselves a little bit, we had an incredible daf yesterday, both Amud Aleph and Amud Beis, and in Amud Beis we begin to get into the interesting discussion regarding which types of blood are considered to be dam niddah versus non-dam niddah. So essentially, remember, in the world of Hilchos Niddah, there are essentially two types of blood. Either you're dam niddah or you're not. Now, the not category will further define as we go on as well. So essentially, I'll say in the Mishnah yesterday, so the Mishnah introduced to us different parts of a woman's anatomy. Again, obviously based on Chazal's understanding of science, as it was known as that time. So the Gemara discussed again what we call the cheder. The cheder is the uterus, the lul, the aliyah, some type of what Chazal considered to be like an upper chamber, the lul, which was a passageway from the aliyah into the prusdor, into what we call the vaginal canal. So essentially what the Mishnah was explaining was as follows. Blood that comes from the cheder, blood that comes from the uterus, that's dam niddah. Blood that technically speaking comes from the aliyah, that's not dam niddah. The tricky part, of course, becomes what happens if you find dam in the prusdar and you're not sure if it came from the cheder or if it came from the aliyah. So we were discussing yesterday that everything, and you have to understand something. The Gemara is talking about purely in hypothetical terms. Because l'maisa, again, a woman does a bedika and she goes ahead and she finds dam. So remember, again, there's absolutely no way to know exactly. So we're talking hypothetical, just in terms of creating categorizations. Also, remember, again, this is always how Gemara works. What we do is we bring up hypothetical cases that in the world of Metzias can't really materialize, but what they do give to us are definitions. And once you have definitions, those definitions are very helpful in terms of defining other realities around us. So that's the sugya that we're now dealing with over here in terms of where we're finding them. So we saw yesterday's daf, different opinions. Are you finding it again closer in the prusdar, closer to the aliyah, closer to the cheder? So we'll say picking up on that. Tani Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia says as follows: Dam hanim tzava prusdar. If a woman finds dam in the prusdar, remember again, the prusdar is the vaginal canal. Chayavin alav al bias mikdash. So we'll say. So remember again, this is another important point that we made at the beginning of the Masechta, but now is a good time to reinforce it and review it again, which is a woman becomes a niddah as soon as the dam exits the cheder. As soon as the blood exits the uterus, even when it's in the vaginal canal, she is a niddah. In other words, we often think that a woman only becomes a niddah when the blood exits the body, but that in fact is not the case. That's why again, halacha l'maisa, as soon as she has a hargasha, that internal sensation that blood has left the uterus, she is a niddah. So the Mishnah is dealing over with the situation where a woman has dislodged uterine blood. Well, I shouldn't say that. She has blood in the vaginal canal, and she had walked into the Beis HaMikdash. Rabbi Chia says, Chayavin al bias mikdash. She's chayiv for entering into the Beis HaMikdash in a state of nidus. And ultimately, again, if she were to touch truma, we would burn that truma as a result of having the truma having come in contact with a niddah. So I'll say, Rabbi Chia therefore is going on record, which is a fascinating idea, going on record saying that if there's dam in the prusdar, what is Rabbi Chia essentially saying? What's the status of dam in the prusdar? It's dam niddah, right? It's dam from the cheder. By the way, we'll also see different words to refer to the uterus. Here the Mishnah is using cheder. Later on we'll discuss makar. But again, so Rabbi Chia's shita is that when you find dam in the prusdar, when you find blood in the vaginal canal, that is dam niddah. That is uterine blood. And therefore, if you walk into the Beis HaMikdash, woman's chayif walking into the Beis HaMikdash, state of tumah. You touch truma, the truma is tameya. Rav Katina says no. Ein chayav and alav al bias mikdash. You are not chayif for entering into the Beis HaMikdash in a state of tumah. Ve'ein sarfan alav as truma. And furthermore, again, if she were to go ahead and touch truma, we would not burn the truma. Now, both say the Rav Katino would agree that halacha l'maisa, if a woman knows that there's dam in the prusdar, she should not enter into the Beis Hamikdash regardless, nor should she touch truma. What Rav Katino is just saying is, if she did enter into the Beis Hamikdash and she did touch truma, there would not be a chiyuv. So we'll say let's analyze. So we'll say fundamental machlokes. Lahach lishna dam Rabbaye ibasar chashasha azlas. So we'll say according to what Rabbi said yesterday, that ultimately again the discussion in the Mishnah is a discussion of chashashos. Remember again, Abai was the one who made the distinction between blood that's found min halul v'lachutz and min halul v'lifnim. So the Gemara said, Mesele Rav Katina upligid Rab Chia. Abai's position ultimately again would support Rav Katina and argue on Rabbi Chia. Lahach lishna da amrit ibasar chazaka azla. So this is just from yesterday's daf. According to the lashon that goes and understands that this is a discussion regarding chazaka, mesayele Rab Chia. It would support the view of Rab Chia, top of Yurchas, upliga de Rav Katina, and would argue ultimately again on Rav Katina. To which the Gemara says, the Rav Huna lo pligi. We'll say, according to Rav Huna's understanding, again, remember, this is Rav Huna's understanding of the Mishnah in yesterday's daf, there's no machlokes. Kan min halul v'lifnim, kan min halul v'lachutz. So we'll say, it could very well be that ultimately, again, they are talking about two different things. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Rav Huna, the Amar le librei, min halul v'lifnim vadai, min halul v'lachutz. So remember again, Rav Huna in yesterday's daf was explaining to his son the fundamental distinction. If blood is found min halul v'lifnim, so remember again, the lul is that passageway to the aliyah. Remember again, in Chazal's understanding over here, so we'll say, so just so if you can imagine the picture, you have the prusdar, which is the vaginal canal. So the prusdar, as it goes up, heads into the cheder, heads into the uterus. There's like a detour over here that goes ahead and branches off into what's called the lul, which is the passageway, and that lul leads into the aliyah. So in Chazal's understanding, almost you have like two areas over here. You have the cheder, the uterus, and you have the aliyah. So Rav Huna was of the position. Rav Huna said as follows: that min halul v'lifnim vadai min halul v'lachutz sveika. That ultimately, again, if it's from the lul v'lifnim, then ultimately vadai min halul v'lachutz. So according to Rav Huna, lo pligi. There's no contradiction over here. Kan min halul v'lifnim. Here is talking about a case ultimately where the blood is found from the lul to the inside. Kan min halul v'lachutz. So we'll say, that's the same distinction that Rav Huna made in yesterday's daf. El Rabbi Shmuel, Rav Yitzchak, Reid Rav Yehuda, Darmi min halul v'lachutz sveikotar. It was according to Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Yitzchak Reid Rav Yehuda, who said that blood that is found min halul v'lachutz sveiko is tahar, min halul v'lifnim sveiko tamei. And if you find blood from the lul and towards the inside, it's sveiko tamei. Hani b'may mitukma. How are you going to set up these cases? Min halul v'lifnim, if you want to say it's talking about a case of where the blood is found from the lul towards the inside, leima pligi de Rab Chia. Ultimately, again, Abba said, then this would argue on the shita of Rabbi Chia, lo kasha. So the Gemara says it's not a contradiction. Another interesting distinction. Kan shenimtza bekarka prusdar, the kam shenimtza begag prusdar. Shabbos said the Gemara now is suggesting another further distinction. Where is it being found in the prusdar? Is it being found on what we call the karka of the prusdar, which means the bottom of, we call the bottom of the vaginal canal, or the gag, the top of the vaginal canal? What's the distinction here? Look at Rashi. Karka prusdar, hainu kiderech yitziasa min hacheder. So we'll say, so apparently, if the blood is coming from the uterus, it would be more common for the dam to be found on the ground, on the bottom of the prusdar. Udurami v'Rav Yitzchak ta'amri safek tamei begag prusdar shekarov la'aliyah. Versus, I will say, if you find the dam on the gag, on the top of the prusdar, that's when there's the possibility that what? That it ultimately came from the aliyah. Rashi says, Rabbi Yitzchak tamri safek tamei begag prusdar shekarov la'aliyah uli olam basar chazaka. So therefore, the Gemara suggesting over here is that maybe the fundamental machlokes deals with where in the prusdar you are finding the dam. So moving the dam a little bit away from the lul, moving it out of the discussion regarding the passageway between the aliyah and the prusdar, we're now moving the machlokes into the prusdar itself. If you find dam on the karka, on the bottom of the prusdar, that is indicative that the dam came from the cheder, that it came ultimately from the uterus. If you find dam on the aliyah, on the upper, on the gag of the prusdar, right, on the top of the prusdar, then Rabbi say again, remember, that's not indicative of anything. What does that do? That creates a suffix. There's the possibility that that dam ultimately came from where? That the dam came from the aliyah. So we'll say, so that would be the distinction. And again, that could be a possible resolution. If you want to say that Rabbi Chia and Rav Katina are not arguing, that's how you would go ahead and frame their discussion. Rabbi Chia, who says that if a woman finds dam on the prusdar and she walks into the Beis HaMikdash, she is chayiv. And if she goes ahead and touches truma, you would burn it. That would be talking about what? Which case? Where the dam is found on the karka of the prusdar. That everyone agrees, halacha l'maisa, is bona fide dam niddah. That came from the uterus. If according to Rav Katina, what's Rav Katina's case of where there's no definitive isser and you wouldn't burn truma? That's where what? You find it on the gag of the prusdar. So Rav Katina is not saying that it's okay. Rav Katina is saying it's a suffix. So remember again, al suffix, you would not make her bring a carbon for walking into the Beis HaMikdash, and al suffix, you would not burn truma. Good. So we'll say that's the interpretation of the mach. That's if we'll say, remember again, this is if you don't want to interpret Rabbi Chia and Rav Katina as having a machlokas, this would be a way ultimately again to ultimately show that halacha l'maisa are talking about two different cases. Good. Rabbi Yochanan. So what Rabbi Yochanan says as follows: B'shlosha makomos. Rabbi says actually a fascinating sugya. B'shlosha makomos halchu bo chachamim achar harov. There are actually three different places where Chazal said that you follow the rov, va'asom kevadai, and we make a rov like a vadai. Make a rov like a vadai. So we'll say, so again, remember, this is an interesting, in general, what does rov mean? So we're going to see there are different ways of interpreting rov. Rov could mean that halacha l'maisa, there's a rov, but a miyut still exists. Right, rov means a majority, but a miyut still exists, and you have to be choshesh for the miyut. That's one way of looking at rov. There's another way of looking at rov, which is what? Once you have the rov, what happens to the miyut? The miyut as if it's not there. So just by the way, we've actually seen this before. This fundamental machlokes in rov actually came up in Chulin. Good, excellent, in Chulin. Right, Shabbos says, remember again, a simple case. I have two kosher hot dogs, one non-kosher hot dog. Okay? And they get mixed in together. So what's the halacha, Rabbosai? What's the halacha? Right? Batal barov. So we'll say, so now, good, okay, so what's the shaila? So can I eat two hot dogs? Or can I eat all three hot dogs? So we'll say, so that depends on the fundamental nature of how you understand rov. Right? If halal, and this is machlokes harishonim, if you understand that rov ultimately means bittul barov means that the miyut no longer exists, then halacha l'maaseh you could eat all three hot dogs. It's an incredible thing. Now, I see a lot of hopeful looks over here. Let's say, obviously, rov doesn't work if you intentionally work something in, right? But l'maaseh again, or do we say no? Rov tells me that what I could do is I could eat hot dog number one because I could assume that it comes from the rov. I could even eat hot dog number two. Once I get to hot dog number three, I'm just going to have to leave it there. I can't eat. A fundamental machlokes in how you view bittul and how you view rov. The novelty of the sugi in front of us, Rabbi Yochanan is saying is, there are three situations in halacha. We're going to see there's actually more than three, but for now there are three cases in halacha where the chachamim took a rov and they said this rov is not just a rov, but they made the rov into a vadai, which also so you're going to see something. We took a majority and we made the majority like a rov that it's like a vadai. What are the three cases? For number one, mikar, shalya, chaticha. So we'll say so. The cases are mikar. Mikar literally means uterus. Shalya means like an afterbirth, a placenta that comes out, and chaticha. Chaticha means a limb. So what are the cases? Mikar, hada amra. So we'll say mikar is the case we just said. Look at Rashi. Hada amran, we'll say it's in the wide lines of Rashi, 4 lines down. Hada amran, b'mas nisin, shecheskasa laba ela min hamakar. Ukedetani Rabbi Chia, alma kevan derov damim hasam shrichim mechaskina min hamakar. So we'll say, so what's the case of makar? The case of makar is the Mishnah with Rabbi Chia. What did Rabbi Chia say? Dam had nimtza b'pruzdar. We'll say, what is the status of blood that is found in the vaginal canal? What's the status? Halacha l'maisa, dam niddah. Why? because rove blood that is found in the prusdar, that is found in the canal, ultimately comes from the uterus. So we'll say, so by the way, this is halacha l'maisa today as well. Meaning, if a woman finds dam, unless, of course, again, I'm not talking about kisamim, we'll discuss about kisamim. Let's say just a woman does a bedika on a random day. Not a good idea, halachically frowned upon, but a woman does a bedika on a random day and she finds blood on her bedika cloth. So we'll say, what's the halacha? What's the halacha? She's a niddah. Right? The only exception to this rule is if she knows she has some kind of makkah, she knows she has some kind of injury, and it's a makkah hamotzi adam, and it's a type of injury that bleeds, then she could be what we call tola. She could literally hang the blood on something else, or she could attribute the blood to something else. But in the absence of a makkah hamotzi adam, in the absence of another bona fide attributable source, if a woman does a bedika and she finds dam, she is a niddah. Why? That's our Mishnah. Rabbi said, this is this sugya. This is what, and you can see, we accept Rabbi Chia, halacha l'maisa, dam hanimtza b'pruzdar, because if she finds blood in the vaginal canal, which is where a woman is finding dam, if she does a bedika, the rov tells us that rov damim in the pruzdar is dam niddah. So you see again, Rabbi says, it's not just stam a rov, but it's a rov that's been made into a vadai. That's the case of makar. Next. So the Gemara says next. Makar Daman. Shalya, what's the case of the Shalya? Shalya means like a placenta, an afterbirth, this nan. Shalya habayis tame. If a woman finds the Shalya, the afterbirth, the placenta in the home is tame. Now, both say, now what is this predicated on? So the assumption over here is, actually, let's read it. Velosha Shalya Vlad. Both say it's not the pshat that the placenta is a baby, Ella she'ein Shalya below Vlad. But rather what it means is there is no afterbirth without having a fetus there. So what happened to the fetus? So we'll say we just assume that the fetus was there, the fetus just disintegrated or something else happened. But lamaisa, where there is a shalya, there is a leida. And therefore, we'll say, therefore again, if that shalya is in the home ultimately again will be tamei meis. Look at Rashi. Habayis tamei. Afim ein vlad nira. Even if there's no discernible fetus over here, nevertheless habayis tamei mishum oel meis. So we'll say this is incredible halacha. So the rov tells us that rov times that there is a shalya, there is a fetus in there, and therefore again that home will contract tumas meis. Rashi says she'ein shalya below vlad v'sarfan alavas atruma. Alma kivan derov shalyos einon below vlad nechaskina le betuma vadois. So it says you have to understand there's a rov here. The rov says that rov, is it possible that sometimes you'll have a placenta without a baby? It's possible. There's a miyut like that. Again, we'll see that in just a moment. But lemaisa, the rov is that where there's a shalya, there's a fetus. Therefore, again, halacha lemaisa, we will assume that rov creates a chazaka, right? We look at that rov as a vadai, not even a chazaka. We look at that rov as a vadai, and therefore halacha lemaisa, there's tumas meis, and if there were to be truma, we would ultimately burn truma. And I will say, understand, you only burn truma when? When there's a vadai tuma. Otherwise, what do you do with the truma? Tolan, right? You just suspend it. You don't do anything with it. You only burn it when we are absolutely positively sure that there's tumas. You see already, we've taken a rov and we've made the rov into a vadai. Rabbi Shimon happens to disagree. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Nimo kavlad achelo yatsa. Rabbi Shimon says, no. We would not look at this as a case of definitive tuma, because Rabbi Shimon says it's just as possible that what? Maybe the vlad disintegrated inside the mother. And by the time that the shilya came out, the vlad is no longer in existence. The vlad ultimately just became like dam, in which case what? It would not convey tumas meis. Look at Rashi just a moment. Nimo kavlad v'na'as sedam. Maybe the vlad disintegrated inside of the mother, just became dam. V'nis ariv b'dam halida, and is just considered to be part of the dam halida. Ubatul berov. And ultimately, so the Gemara is just recording over here, there is a descending opinion. Rabbi Shimon holds that just because you find the shilya, right, just because ultimately, again, you find the placenta, does not automatically mean that there's tumas meis in the home, does not automatically mean that people contract tumas meis, does not automatically mean that we burn truma, because there was a baby, but maybe the fetus disintegrated inside of the mother, became dam, exited as dam, and got mixed up with dam leida. Good. So the Gemara says, so therefore again, so that's case number 2. So case number 2 is Shalya. So what are we doing in case of Shalya? Rov Nashim, when they miscarry a Shalya, there's a Vlad there as well. We make that Rov like a Vadai. So if a person is in a home and the Shalya is there, what's their status? Tamei Tumas Mace. Right? You have contracted Tumas Mace from being underneath the same roof as the fetus. Right? There's Truma there, we would burn the Truma. The rov is made into a vadai. Case number 3. Chaticha, olim. This nan, hamapelas yad chatucha, beregel chatucha, imo timea leda. Well, this is an interesting case. If a woman miscarries a hand, I mean, what she aborts, what ultimately comes out is a hand. Yad chatucha means just a hand, or regel chatucha, just a foot. Imo timea leda. Ultimately, again, the mother is Tmei Leda. So what I say, interesting enough over here, in this case, she's miscarrying a fully formed limb, but not the rest of the baby. Not the rest of the baby. So what I say, the halacha is, we assume that where there is a fully formed limb, therefore also there was a fetus, and therefore halacha lamaisa, the mother is Tamei Tumas Leda. Look at Rashi. Imo Tmei Leda, Viteshev, so of course, leaving aside over here, what is her Tumas Leda for a boy, for a girl? Obviously, that's what we're not going to know because all that's coming out now is a limb. So Rashi points out over here again, we'll see this actually later on. V'teishev chomer zachar limei toar, the chomer nikeva limei tumas. So essentially what we do is we give her the chumras of both the zachar and nekeva for her days of toar and her days of tumah. V'mechaskina la baleda vadois, litein la yimei tumah v'imei tara, the aminon halach acharov, v'rov nashim vlad ma'alya yaldan ela shinimuk. So we'll say, this is actually quite interesting, right? That the rov bismana Gemara is that the majority of women give birth to a vlad ma'alya, give birth to a healthy baby, which is interesting, which is an interesting rov, considering what? Right, considering infant mortality rates and everything else. But remember, I'm going to both say, so Tumas Leda does not require a living birth. What Tumas Leda requires is what? A fully formed baby, or not even fully formed, but formed enough that it is a recognizable human form. So the idea of Yerabosai is that where the mother miscarries, but all she expels ultimately is a limb. What essentially we're saying is that limb came from what? A fully formed baby. Where's the rest of the fetus? The rest of the fetus must have disintegrated in utero. But lamaisa, again, there was a fully formed fetus, and therefore the expelling of this limb is enough of a leda to give her tumas leda. So the Gemara says, "Ein choshishin shema miguf atum bas," and we don't assume that halacha lamaisa there was never really a fully formed fetus, and this limb just somehow formed with the rest of the fetus, but the rest of the fetus really never took completed form. Look at Rashi. Vin choshishin shlomar lo yehu lo yemei toar shema eno vlad. The dilma guf atum. We're both saying so. Guf atum literally means like from a stunted fetus. We don't assume that somehow this hand grew or this foot grew, but the fetus itself was never properly formed. The kaima lama apelas deno vlad denu kivada. Sorry. So therefore again, this is rov number 3. So rov number 3 ultimately again. Rov number 3 is that when a woman goes ahead and miscarries a fully formed limb, we assume that fully formed limb came from a fully formed fetus, because rov nashim give birth to a fully formed fetus. So therefore, halacha lamaisa again, she is tamei tumas leda. Good. So as I said, these are the 3 cases, ultimately again, where the rov is made like a vadai. Again, what are the 3 cases? Number 1, makar, which tells me that what? That halacha lamaisa, rov of the damim, rom of the blood found in the prusdar is what Rabbi say is dam niddah, and therefore we make that rov like a vadai. Therefore, whenever a woman finds dam in the prusdar, parentheses, unless possibly attributed to another source, is going to be dam niddah. Case number 2, shalya. Wherever you find the shalya in the house, we'll say we assume that what? Wherever there's a shalya, there's what? There's a fetus. What happened to it? It disintegrated now, but it was there. Therefore, again, halach lamai, so we make that shalya like a vadai. That's a vadai fetus. Therefore, tamei tumas, so it burn truma. And case number 3 is a woman who miscarries a limb. a limb. Halacha Maisa, we assume that where there's a limb, there's a fully formed fetus, because Rov Nashim, who give birth to a fully formed fetus, and therefore Halacha Maisa, she is Tameh Tumas Leida. Good. 3 cases, Rabbi said, where we made Rov like a Vadai. To which the Gemara says, V'su Leka. Tell me there's no other cases? There's no other case where we make a rov like a vada. That's not true. We'll say the most famous case, v'ha'ika teisha chanuyos. We'll say there's the case of the 9 stores. What's the case of the 9 stores? The sanya teisha chanuyos kulan mochras basar shchuta va'achas mocheres basar nevela v'lakach me'achas men ve'eniyodem ezion lachas. Well, let's listen to this. There are 9 stores that sell kosher meat. 1 store that sells non-kosher meat. Here's what I know. I know that I went into a store and I bought meat. What don't I know? Which store I went into. So I'll say, what's the halacha over here? Sveiko aser. So I'll say the halacha is that ultimately the safek is aser. Then I will say, now what does it mean the safek is aser? Rashi says, now I will say this is for a different reason. This goes into the concept of kol kavua kemechza al mechza damya. That whenever the safek is generated by something that is set in place, there's another halacha la Moshe Missinai that says that we treat that not as a rov but as a 50-50 case. I don't care about that case. What I care about is the next case. Ubenimtza halach achar harov. So we'll say, what's the halacha? If you find a piece of meat on the street in a city where there are 9 kosher butchers, 1 non-kosher butcher, you are permitted to eat that meat. Why? Because the assumption is, not the assumption, the Rov tells us that Allah, so where did that meat come from? One of the 9 kosher stores. So we'll see here, there's a case of Rov, they make the Rov like a Vadai. To which the Gemara says, you're right, Tuma Kamrinan, Isra Lo Kamrinan. The truth is, when we made the statement, when Rabbi Yochanan made the statement that in 3 places the Rov becomes a Vadai, Rabbi Yochanan is referring to cases of Tuma, not cases of Isser. This is a case of Isser, not a case of Tuma. Okay, so I'll give you a case of Tuma. Va'ika Teishat Svardein v'Sheretz Echad Beinehem. Supposed to listen to this. Let's say you have 9 frogs and 1 sheretz. So Rabbi say, so remember again, frogs are not shratzim. Halacha, meaning the Torah does not categorize them as shratzim, therefore they do not convey tumas sheretz. So what's the case over here? You have 9 frogs and 1 sheretz. So I will say, so what happens? V'naga be'echad mehen, ve'ena de'bezen naga. So I'll say, so what's the halacha? I touched one of them, and I don't know which one I touched. So I'll say, so by the way, the easiest way to frame this case is, a frog is, bless you, a frog is not a sheretz, but what? A toad is a sheretz. So I'll say, so again, I'm assuming most of us can't have ever seen frogs and toads, right? So lemaisa, again, that's the easy. So the point is, you have 9 frogs, and which are not shratzim, and another sheretz which is mixed in, which looks very similar to the other shratzim, to the non-shratzim. So I touched one of them, and I don't know which one I touched. So I'll say, what's the halacha? So naga birshus hayochid sveiko tame. So I'll say, if halacha lemaisa, I went ahead and this occurred in rishus hayochid, ultimately against sveiko tame. Birshus harabim sveiko tar. If it occurred in Rishus Harabim, the Safek is certain. I will say, now that's just a general din of Safek Tumah. Right? We learn this from Sota. Right? Safek Tumah Birshus Hayochid, Sveiko Tamei, Safek Tumah Birshus Harabim, Sveiko Tahor. Ubenimsa, but I will say, but remember, this is what we're focusing on. Benimsa, let's say again, I find one of these animals, one of the mixture, and I touched it, halach achar harov. Ultimately, we're after the rov. So also, what does that mean? So if I have a group of 9 frogs, 1 sheretz, they all get mixed up together. So again, safek, what happens if I just find one of them on the street and I touch it? So we'll say, what's the halacha? Rashi says, "Ubenimtza shepirish echman lemakum achar v'nagaba adam sham tar tahashlo kavua va'amrina called the Persian rapash." So we'll say, what do you see from here? If you ended up touching one of them, what's the halacha? You're tar. Why? Because we go after the rov. So we'll say, here's another case of rov, and it's dealing with what? It's dealing with tumah. So why doesn't Rabbi Yochanan include this in the category? Rabbi Yochanan said there are only 3 cases, or there are 3 cases where we take a rov and make it like a vadai. Here's another case of where you take a rov, you make it like a vadai. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Tumah de isha karminan, tumah ba'alma lo karminan. To which the Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan was dafka talking about what? Cases of tumah by an isha. By an isha. Ultimately, again, there are 3 cases of tumas isha where we make the rov like a vadai. Are there other cases of Tumah like you make the rove like a Vada? Sure, but not by Tumas Isha. Okay, so the Gemara says, there's another case. We'll say by Isha. What's the case? Fascinating case. Avra Banar. We'll say, let's say a woman is crossing a river, Amadeus, Vehepila. So we'll say, as she's crossing the river, she miscarries while she's in the river. And what happens? So we'll say, now in this case over here, the current takes away the miscarriage. So we'll say, so now what's the problem? I don't know what she miscarried. Did she miscarry a baby? Did she miscarry what's called a ruach? Right? So we'll say ruach means what? Ruach just means in general, just like anything that's not called a viable of a fetus is called a ruach. So I'll say ve'pila mevia karban. So I'll say she goes there ve'pila mevia karban. Ultimately, again, she brings so ve'pila. So what's her halacha? Mevia karban v'neachal. So we'll say amazingly enough, she will bring a karban. We'll say what karban? Karban leda. She'll bring a karban leda, v'neachal, and ultimately again it is consumed. Look at Rashi v'neachal. Chatas ha'of shela ne'echeles. V'lo aminan ala safek ba ve'ina ne'echeles. Tedim alav vladu v'chulin melukinain. Umilika chulin nevela. So what's umilikas chulin nevela? So listen to this, remember. So this is a fascinating case. You have a woman who's crossing the river. She knows, she will quote unquote, I don't know if this is the right technical term, but she expels something. She expels something. The problem is, under normal circumstances, we would look at what she expelled. Over here, the river took it away. So yet, what does the Gemara say? What does the Gemara say? So remember, who's talking over here? This is Rabbi Shmuel ben Levi. Rabbi Shmuel ben Levi says, she brings a karban, and the karban is eaten. Rabbi say, now there are times where we bring a karban misafek. What happens in a karban misafek? Generally, again, it's not consumed by Kohanim. But yet over here, her karban is consumed, which tells you what? That from a halachic status, we assume that what she experienced was a bona fide leda. So, why? Halach acharov, because we go after the rov. The rov nashim vlad ma'alya yoldan. And I will say, the majority of women, when they expels the wrong word, but when they birth something, right? So ultimately, again, it is a bona fide birth, lav dafka viable birth, but a bona fide birth. So I will say, so what do you see from here? You see from here that halacha l'maisa. So I will say, here's a fourth case. Here's a fourth case of ultimately, again, a case of tuma by a woman where we're taking the rove and the rove is treated like a vadis. So I will say, this, by the way, is a very dramatic case of this, because I will say, in this case over here, there's nothing to look at. Right? Remember, it's gone. It's gone. There's nothing to examine. I understand the case of Shalya, in the case of the after the placenta, you have a placenta here. So, okay, you could say, where there's a placenta, there's a birth. Where's the baby? The baby disintegrated into the placenta. But Lamaisa, again, is saying here. Here, in this case, there's nothing to look at. Yet, Lamaisa, what we're saying is, Rov Nashim who give birth to a Vlad Ma'alya. So, therefore, we assume that there was a bona fide birth, and therefore, Halach Lamaisa, she's tummy tumas leda. She brings a karban and her karban is consumed. So what? So why doesn't Rabbi Yochanan bring in this case? To which the Gemara gives a very interesting answer. Masnisin kaminan. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi said was only included cases that are listed in the Mishnah. Shmaisisa lo kaminan. We don't bring in Amoraic statements. So Rabbi says, listen to this. Now apparently we're discerning customers over here, right? So, right, Rabbi Yochanan is only talking about cases that are listed in the Mishnah. Rabbi said, this is a statement by who? Who is it a statement by? By Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So Shmaisa says individual statements that Rabbi Yochanan is not reckoning in his tally of cases. Look at Rashi. Shmaisa says, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Amorahu. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is an Amora. Ushlosha makomos Rabbi Yochanan, Mishnah o Braisa. So Rabbi Yochanan says when he says there are three cases where you treat a rov like a vadai, he's only including cases that are listed in a Mishnah or in a Braisa. But in what we call a Shmaisa, right, or a Shmaisisa, which is an Amoraic statement, that Rabbi Yochanan is not including. Okay, so the Gemara says, V'ha ki asa Ravin Amar Masiv Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Chanina Toeh V'lo yedana maiti yufte. So listen to this. So but we learn when Ravin came along, he quoted a question, right? Master Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina. Toeh V'lo yedana my tiyufta. Look at Rashi just a moment. Maaser Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina ad Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi masnisin chada demayri biisha toa shelo yada e masa yalda v'hasam katanila v'ka'amaravin lo yedana my tiyufta de Rabbi Yossi de lav tiyufta hui v'hasam mefaresh timer. So let's listen to this. But yet ultimately again, this statement of Rabbi Shmuel Levi was brought up in a different context. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina brought up a question of Toa. And Rabbi said, we're going to see what this case is. But there's a situation of a woman, Toa, Shelo Yalda Imasa Yalda, a woman who gave birth and she does not know when the birth occurred. Velo Yadina Mai Tiyufta. And I don't know what the answer is to this case. So the Gemara says, My love Tiyufta. So my love Lo Tiyufta Elasiyaita. Are we not saying over here that halacha l'maisa, the Mishnah was not a refutation, but ultimately again was a siyaita, was a support, ultimately to Rabbi Shmuel Levi, in which case Rabbi Shmuel Levi's position is bolstered, ultimately again by a braysa. Lo dilma lo tiyufta v'lo siyaita. Rather what it's saying is we're not sure if the braysa was a support or was a refutation of Rabbi Shmuel Levi. Okay, so we'll say, so what we thought over here is maybe I thought that I actually had a braysa that supported the position of Rabbi Shmuel Levi, but it turns out that I actually don't know the interface between Rabbi Shmuel Levi and the braysa. So therefore, I can say, therefore, Rabbi Shmuel Levi's case is not included in Rabbi Yochanan's tally. Why? Because Rabbi Yochanan only states cases that are explicitly stated in a Mishnah or a braysa. Rabbi Shmuel Levi is an Amoraic statement and therefore not included. Fine. So we'll say, to which the Gemara says, Lumi ute mai. Now we'll say, now remember, every time the Gemara goes ahead and lists a number of cases, so the listing comes to include, but what else does the listing come to do? Comes to exclude. So when Rabbi Yochanan says that there are three cases where we treat a rov like a vadai, what that is also saying is what? There are other cases where the rov is not treated like a vadai. The rov is not treated like a vadai. So what are those cases? So we'll say, I love these Gemaras, right? These are always fascinating because I will say what you're going to see over here is rov in general is a fascinating concept. Now we're going to get into the riveting discussion. I feel bad for the Chavra who's not here today. I will say, by the way, this is generally we don't make people feel bad about things that they missed. This is you could absolutely make people feel bad about, and you should make people feel bad because I will say sometimes you miss incredible things. People have to be vigilant about their opportunities. So I will say, you have permission to text your friends about this and make them feel terribly bad. So I'll say, so listen to this. We're going to get now to the fascinating interplay between rov and chazaka. So I'll say, remember again, chazaka meaning presumption. Chazaka is established how? So I'll say, so chazaka could either be established by frequency or chazaka could just be established by an established pattern of behavior. Lav dafka, the event occurs 3 times, but this is the way it occurs, right? Frequency means it occurred 3 times or 2 times, machlokes in chazaka, or ultimately again, or halacha l'maisa, just this is the way it's always been. Versus rov, which means I have more of this than that. Or, again, rov times this occurs like this and not like that. So we'll say, watch this. Now here's what we know. Rabbi Yochanan tells me, keep this in mind, Rabbi Yochanan tells me that halacha l'maisa, there are 3 times where rov is treated like a vadai. The truth is, for our purposes, we actually saw, and remember, we're narrowing the focus. What is Rabbi Yochanan referring to? What is he referring to? Tumas Isha. Tumas Isha, which means I will say there are other times where rov is treated like a vada. Rabbi Yochanan, first, only 3 times with a Tumas Isha. There might even be a 4th, but it's not a Mishnah or a Brayso. It's an Amoraic statement. Now says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, when you say 3 times, that's including the 3 you mentioned, right? Mekar, Chaticha, Shalya. But Lamaisa, what are you excluding from that? So watch this. This is incredible. Lemiute mai. Ilema lemiute rubadika chazaka ba'adei. Delo sarfinan aleyas atruma. So I'll say maybe he's coming to exclude the following case of a situation of a rov that is, I don't know if the word is contradicted, but a rov that is, we'll call it contradicted by a chazaka. Right? What happens when you have a rov that is contradicted by a chazaka? So the Gemara says, so the mutemai ilema lemi ute ruba di ika chazaka ba'adei. So we'll say ika chazaka ba'adei means, look at Rashi, ilema lemi ute ruba tumas isha di ika chazaka ba'adei kilomar kinegda. Right? We'll say if telling me that it's come to include a case of a rove that has an opposing chazaka. The marale chazaka leruba. Because when you have a rove and there's a chazaka that contradicts that rove, the rove is eroded. The kaasi minyan lemiute de lazlina basar huruba. The shabi milsa. So we'll say maybe Rabbi Yochanan is saying like this: rove counts as a vadai when there's nothing that opposes the rove. So we'll say, by the way, you'll say to yourself, there's always something that opposes the rove. What always opposes the rove? The miyut. So Rabbi Yochanan, remember, that's the novelty here. Rabbi Yochanan is going to say that there are three cases where we don't look at the miyut. The rove is so strong that it eclipses the miyut. But if there is a chazaka which contradicts the rove, that will erode the power of the rove. So if you want, maybe that's the case that he's excluding. Rabbi Yochanan already said that. Rabbi said, listen, this is an interesting case. Rabbi said, so that Rabbi Yochanan already said that once. What's the case? Here we go. This time, incredible. Tino kanimtza betzada isa. Kids get into everything. So I say, so now watch this. This is the days before baby locks. So I say, so the Gemara says, you have a baby who is sitting by the isa, right? Who is sitting by the dough. So we'll say, so now what's the shaila? The shaila is, what is the status of the dough? So watch this. So the Gemara says, ubiyada batik. Now we'll say, the baby's not just sitting by the dough, but what happens? He has a piece of dough in his hand. So Rabbi Meir metar, the Chacham metamer. Rabbi Meir says, the dough is tahar, and the Chachamim say the dough is tameh. Shedarko shel tinok lifat litapech. So we'll say, so ultimately again, I understand the position of the Chachamim. The Chachamim say that ultimately, again, the dough is tameh. Why is the dough tameh? Because Rabbi say kids poke around in everything, including garbage dumps. And in garbage dumps, there are always what? Shratzim. So we assume this baby has had contact with shratzim. We'll say parenting standards were different back then. Don't judge. Right? So I'll say, kids are playing with shratzim. So what happens? Because the baby is playing with shratzim, now the baby touches the dough is tameh. That's the shita chum. Shabbos say, it's another way of saying what? It's another way of saying what? You have no idea what your kids' hands are in. Right? So because of that, if you see a baby sitting by the dough, now we'll say, now it's not just sitting by the dough. Remember again, what do we know? The baby touched the dough. So essentially you have no choice but to treat that dough as tameh. So that's the Chum. Makes perfect sense. The Metzius. What's Rabbi Meir Shita? We'll say, my time to Rabbi Meir. Here we go. We'll say this is, by the way, incredible halachic maneuvering. Watch this. You have to appreciate this. It's like fine wine. You have to swish it around the palate a little bit. My time with Rabbi Meir. Kasavar. Here we go. Rov tinokos metapchin. So we'll say, so again, the Rabbi Meir will give the Chum. The majority of babies play around with shratzim. Now we'll say, now remember again, that's a rove. Because does every baby play with shratzim? No. There's a rove. The rove baby play with shratzim. Okay, now watch this. Umiyut, eno betapchin. But there's a miyut of babies that what? Don't play with shratzim. Now watch this. V'isa b'chazkas tahora omedes. So we'll say, now remember the dough. Here what Rabbi does like a split screen. We've got the baby, we've got the dough. When it comes to the baby, rove babies what? Play with shratzim. Miyut, do not. On the other side, dough. What's the chazaka of the dough? Chezkes tara. Here we go. Get ready. Samuch miuta lechazaka ve'isrele ruba. Therefore, we'll say, when I look at this dough, what do I have? I have the chazaka of the dough. I have the chazaka of the dough that it's tar. I have the miyut of babies. That what? Don't play with shratzim. Take the chazaka of the dough, the miyut of babies that don't play with shratzim, and undermine or erode the power of the rove of babies who do play with shratzim. And incredible, right? It's incredible. So when you take the chazak of the isa together with the miyut of babies, you have the ability to what? To undermine the effectiveness of that rove, and to say that lemais again what? The isa will still be tahar. Absolutely incredible. Ay v'rabbanan. So the Rabbanan are like, yeah, whatever, right? The Rabbanan say, what did the Rabbanan say? Umiuta kiman delesidam. So it goes back to what we said before. The Rabbanan say, Rabbi Meir, you're using a miyut in a way that it shouldn't be used. Whenever you have a rove, what does rove say? The miyut is non-existent. That's what rove does. What Rov does, we'll say, once you establish Rov then consumes the miyut and says that the miyut doesn't exist. Veruba vechazaka, ruba adaf. Now, both say what the Chachamim will agree with is that halacha l'maisa. In this case, what you do have is a conflict between the rov of the babies and what the chazaka of the dough. All right, everyone agrees the dough has a chazkas tara, but ruba vechazaka. Whenever you have a conflict between rov and chazaka, ultimately again rov always wins. So both say so. This is a fascinating machlokes, right? The fascinating machlokes over here regarding between Rabbi Meir. Oh, what's Rabbi Meir? I'm sorry. Yeah, Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim and the Rabbanon, right? So the Chachamim saying you have a rov, right? Rov tinokos, go ahead and play in garbage dumps. Ultimately, again, the Rabbanon say now we see according to the Chachamim, pretty much once you have that rov consumes the miyut no longer exists. So in the Chachamim's model, I do have a conflict. What's my conflict between rov babies play with shratzim and what? Cheskas tara of the dough. What happens when you have a conflict between Rov and Chazaka? They both say, by the way, that's also, we're going to speak more about this. What else when you have a conflict between Rov and Chazaka? At least the Rabbanan say, Rov wins. Therefore, the Isa is Tameh. Rabbi Meir says, no. The miyut does not cease to exist. The miyut is still there. Therefore, what can you do? Take the miyut of babies who don't play with shratzim. Combine that with the chazaka of the Isa. The miyut and chazaka together are strong enough to what? Overpower the rov. And then Rabbi Meir says that the dough is tahar. Shabbosai. So again, the Gemara says, Bless you, Dami. Rabbi v'chazak Rabbi Adav. Rabbi Shlakish and Rabbi Oshia Zohi chazaka shesarfin aleh asat truma. And Rabbi Oshia says this would be the type of chazaka. Ultimately, again, that we would burn truma. So before we get to this, so therefore, again, what the Gemara suggested is, remember, what are we trying to do? We're trying to figure out. Rabbi Yochanan made a statement. What was Rabbi Yochanan's statement? That halacha l'maisa, there are three cases in which rov is like a vadai. Whenever you see a statement like that, that means you're coming to exclude something. What are we coming to exclude? Maybe we're coming to exclude a case of where you have a conflict between a rov and a chazaka, right? That where there's a rov and a chazaka, the chazaka ultimately again, when the Havamina was, when there's a rov and a chazaka, so ultimately again the chazaka will undermine the rov, which is Rabbi Meir's shita. The chazaka together with the miyut undermines the rov. The Rabbanan say no, when you have a conflict between a rov and a chazaka, rov goes ahead and overrides it. So both say the point over the Gemara is saying is that if you want to say that it's this case, Rabbi Yochanan already mentioned this case beforehand. So both say they're just continuing this. So Vamrei Shlakish said, Mishra Rabbi Yoshia, Zohi chazaka shesarfin aleha esat truma. This is the type of chazaka through which we would burn truma. What does it mean? Look at Rashi. Rashi says, Zohi chazaka, chazaka zu, shanu machzikin stam rov tinokos metapchin, chazaka gimura hechzikua, la sosa kivades. So we'll say now what we're doing is, the lashon over here becomes a little bit blurred. So Reish Lakish says, this type of chazaka, the Rebbe say, now he doesn't really mean chazaka. What does he mean? Rov. Really what he says over here is, this is the type of rov. This type of rov, which does not take into account the miyut, which is the position of the chachamim, creates the level of certainty through which we would even burn truma. So let's remember again, in the Rabbanan's model, if the dough we're talking about is truma, talking about truma dough. So what happens according to the Rabbanan when the baby is sitting next to the dough, holding a piece of dough in his hand? What do I do with that dough? I burn it. Why, Rabbi Osai? Because what we have over here is the type of rov that consumes the miyut, which becomes like a vadai. It becomes so strong that it even swallows up the cheskas tara of the dough itself. Rabbi Yochanan says, Ein zu chazaka shesarfan aleas atruma. So Rabbi Yochanan says, no, this is not the type of chazaka through which we burn truma. Why not? So the Gemara says, so let's remember again, Rabbi Yochanan will be of the opinion that what? Whenever you have a chazaka that contradicts the rov, then that rov does not create a vadai. So we'll say, remember again, in Rabbi Yochanan's model, he holds that in this case, although there is a rov babies go ahead and play with shratzim, and that rov swallows up the miyut of babies who don't. But what do you have on the other side of the equation? A cheskes tara of the Isa. Rabbi Yochanan himself holds that halacha l'maisa, in that case you have a conflict of a rov and a chazaka. the rove does not create a vadai circumstance. So both say. So remember again, just keep this in mind. So remember again, Rabbi Yochanan said before, just so you follow the train of thought over here. Rabbi Yochanan said before that what? There are three cases where what? Where what? Rove becomes a vadai. We're trying now to figure out what are you coming to exclude. So if you're coming to exclude the case of where the rove is contradicted by the chazaka, that's not a vadai. Rabbi Yochanan said that explicitly. Rabbi said that's Rabbi Yochanan saying that explicitly over here, right? He's saying it explicitly that here you have a case of a rove and a chazaka butting heads. There's a rove of babies that play with shratzim. So Rabbi said, which says that what? What does that rove say? Babies are tameh. Babies are tameh. Rabbi say that's not like an anti-child statement, right? Right? Babies are tameh is a halachic statement. Babies are tameh. The miyut disappears. But yet Rabbi Yochanan says when you have a conflict between the rove and the chazaka, the cheskas tara of Isa, we would not declare the Isa definitively tameh. In other words, Rabbi said that if the baby touched the Isa and it was truma, we would not burn the truma. So Rabbi Yochanan says that case explicitly. So Rabbi says, so what case is Rabbi Yochanan coming to exclude? To which the Gemara says, Ella lemeute rubad Rabbi Yehuda. Rather, it must be coming to exclude, Rabbi said, the rove case of Rabbi Yehuda. What's this case? This is actually quite interesting. Rabbi said, we're actually going to see this case in just a few days on Daf Chaf Aleph. So the Gemara says as follows: Hamapelas chaticha. So I'll say, what happens if a woman she expels chaticha? Chaticha means a piece of some type of fleshy substance. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Rashi says chaticha below tsura. So we'll say, so this is just a piece of flesh, but there's absolutely no tsuras havlad. There's no human form to this. So we'll say, so the shaila is this a birth with tumas leda, or is it just the expelling of some type of flesh? So the Gemara says, im yesh ima dam tmeya. So I'll say, if ultimately again, if there's blood that accompanies the chaticha, then she's going to be tmeya. Look at Rashi, yesh ba dam tmeya ha'isha tmeya keshar niddah v'lo mishum leda. So we'll say, let's be clear. If there's blood that comes out along with the chaticha, she's tamei tumas niddah. Why not tumas leda? Why not tumas leda? Because we don't know if that this is a baby. All we know is this is a piece of flesh. So if it's just a piece of flesh that comes out, so again, if there's blood that accompanies it, she's going to be tamei tumas niddah. Ve'im laf Torah. But Rabbi said, technically speaking, halacha l'maisa, if the piece of flesh comes out and all it is just a piece of flesh, so there's nothing and there's no dam. She's tahora. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Ben kach u ben kach tmeya. We'll say Rabbi Yehuda says whether or not there's blood or not, if the piece of flesh comes out, she is tmeya. But Rabbi Shmuel Silber. But when is that so? Lo timei Rabbi Yehuda ella bechaticha sha'arba minei damim. So Rabbi says we're going to say that it's only true halacha l'maisa if the chaticha is the same color as one of the four colors of blood that is tamei. So we're going to see that there are four shades, there are four colors which are considered to be blood. Other colors ultimately again are not dam, not blood, they're rather there's some other kind of secretion. So we'll say, so watch this. When does Rabbi Yehuda say that if this piece of flesh comes out even without dam, that she's tamei? That's when the flesh itself is one of the four problematic colors. Aval, so Gemara says, "Ela bechaticha she'arba minei damim." Look at Rashi. She'arba she'chaticha me'arba maros dam tamei ashrim masnisin. Va'af agav dechamisha tanan shachar adamu ela shalaka. Right, shachar adamu ela shalaka. Decheva demara dam yeshba arminan kula damhu utmei niddah. V'rabbanan savri ein zed dam ela basa. So let's listen to this. Rabbi Yehuda says like this: if the piece of flesh itself is like one of the problematic colors, then Rabbi say, what do we assume this piece of flesh is? A congealed piece of blood. That's what we assume that it is. So even though again there's no liquid blood, if the piece of flesh is one of the problematic colors, then halacha l'maisa we assume that it's just congealed dam. Aval sharminei damim torim. But I will say ultimately again, if it's one of the other non-problematic colors, then halacha l'maisa Rashi is going yarok. For example, it's green or it's yellow. So we'll say so ultimately again this will not be a problem. And again, so we'll say so here's what we have. So we have again ultimately the Rabbanan, the Tanakama telling us that if a woman expels a piece of flesh, if there's blood along with it, then what? She's tamei what? Tumas niddah. Right? If there's no blood and it's just a piece of flesh, she's fine. Rabbi Yehuda says even if there's no blood if the piece of flesh is one of the problematic colors, then we assume it's congealed blood, and therefore she's Tameya. But if it's not one of the problematic colors, then she's totally Tahora. Rabbi Yochanan says, Shal arba minei damim divrei kol Tameya. Rabbi Yochanan says, if the piece of flesh is one of the 4 problematic colors, everyone will agree that she's Tameya. V'shal shar damim divrei kol Tahora. And I will say, if it's just a piece of flesh and it's one of the non-problematic colors, everyone agrees that what? That she's Torah. So what's the machlokes? Lo nechluku. Here we go. Ela kishihipila, top of your test. Ve'ena yodaas ma hipila. And I will say, what's the problematic case? Where she expelled something, but what? She does not know what she expelled. I will say, what's the mitzvah here? Look at top Rashi test with Aleph. Sha'avda chaticha kodum shabal lefanenu. We'll say, what's the case? She expelled a piece of flesh, and what? It was lost. It was lost. The river case, it doesn't matter how it was lost. We can't examine it. So I'll say, so again, Rabbi Yochanan is coming along and saying something amazing. Everyone agrees that halacha l'maisa, if she expels this piece of flesh, even if there's no accompanying blood, but what? Halacha l'maisa, it's one of the problematic colors. We look at it as congealed blood, and she is tamei tumas niddah. If the piece of flesh is one of the non-problematic colors, everyone agrees that what? Tahora. What's the safek case? What's the problematic case? She expelled the piece of flesh, but it's gone. We don't know what it is. So what do you do in this case? Rabbi Huda sabra zil basa rov chatichos. V'rov chatichos shal arba minei damim havyon. Rabbi Huda will say, go after the majority. And I will say, what's the majority? The majority says that, we'll say, apparently again, Rabbi Huda will say, it is not uncommon for a woman to expel a piece of congealed blood. And therefore, Allah said, the Rov says, majority of times when she does that, it is one of the 4 problematic colors, 4/5, 4 problematic colors. And therefore, again, in this case, halacha l'maisa, where the piece of congealed flesh is not in front of us, the Rov tells us it's Tameya. It's Tameya. For Rabbanan Savri, zil basa rov chatichos lo amrinan. And the Rabbanan say we don't go after the Rov. So we'll say, look at Rashi just a moment. Lo amrinan zil basa rov chatichos, to lo sfira le rov chatichos shal dalamine damim. Vashin Rabbi Yochanan la'el, begimel makamos halchol achar harov, v'sulo lemiute harub Rabbi Huda. Therefore, we'll say the Gemara suggests that when Rabbi Yochanan said on Amud Aleph, that's what? There are 3 cases where the Rov is like a vadai. What is it coming to exclude? It's coming to exclude this case. That Rabbi Yochanan says that we hold like the Rabbanan, not like Rabbi Yehuda, namely that in a case where a woman expels a congealed piece of something, right, and it's lost and it's not in front of us, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says we go after the Rov. The Rov says that it's one of the problematic colors. She's Tameya, Tumas, Niddah. The Rabbanan say no, we don't go after Rov. Rabbi Yochanan agrees with the Rabbanan in this case. That in this case we don't say after Rov, and therefore where the piece of flesh, right, is not in front of us, halach l'maisa, we will not declare her Tameya. Rabbi Yochanan therefore says there are only 3 cases by Tumas Isha where we say that halach l'maisa, the Rov is like a vadai. Those cases are the cases of the Makar, which tells us that dam that is found in the prusdar, dam that is found in the vaginal canal, the Rov tells us that it is Niddah, dam, Niddah blood, and therefore she is Tameya. Next case, Rov tells us wherever there's a placenta, there's what? There's a baby, therefore there's Tumas Meis, as well as Tumas Leida. And number 3, where she expels a limb, that means it came from a vlad that was formed, and therefore she will be Tamei Tumas Leida as well. Those are the only 3 cases where we make the Rov like a vada by Tumas Isha, but in this case over here, where she expels the piece of flesh, it's washed down river. She no longer has it. We do not say Rov Chatichos are from a problematic color. Rather, we paskin that the Rov does not apply in this case. That's the case that Rabbi Yochanan means to exclude. Shkach Chabaz, I'll pick up at the Mishnah Mirat Hashem tomorrow.